very warm welcome, dear friends and policy lovers, to another episode of the Oxford Policy Podcast. My name is Nick Fabbri and I'll be your host for today's episode, which is part of the Students of the Master of Public Policy series, where we shine a spotlight on the amazing scholars and people who make up the MPP here in Oxford. We're lucky to be joined today by Gargi Sharma, MPP student, World Bank scholar, and member of Regent's Park College. Gargi is from New Delhi in India and works as a senior civil servant in the Indian Revenue Service within the Ministry of Finance. So welcome, Gargi, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Wonderful. So for our listeners who are not as familiar with you and your story, could you start off by telling us a bit about yourself?
Yes, sure, Nick. I'm Gargi. I'm a civil servant in India. I work in the Indian Revenue Service. And apart from that, I'm a mother of two kids, Maitre and Shakya, and I have worked in the Ministry of Finance for also many years, like maybe more than 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been an incredible journey for me. The career has been checkered with many different kinds of assignments and different kinds of roles that I have been through. So it has all added up to different flavors to my career journey. And yeah, here I am sitting with you.
Wonderful. And you were telling me before that your friends describe you as being full of verve and a sense of joy for life. Do you want to sort of expand a bit on that in terms of understanding who you are as a person?
Yeah. He described me like I'm having a lot of verve or spirit, a lot of enthusiasm, a spring of life, maybe, kind of. I do have an enthusiasm towards life as such, and I find myself to be always very curious, very investigative, interrogative about life as such, and I like to live it with the full flow of it. Yeah, so that's what make me, and that's what the reason probably that I'm here at Oxford now.
Part of that curiosity.
Yeah.
I wish my friends would describe me in such terms. I don't know if they'd have such lovely and glowing and poetic descriptions, but anyway. So can you paint a picture of what life was like for you in New Delhi and India, which I imagine must be very different to Oxford and gloomy England? And as you know, I'm visiting Kolkata later in the year for a friend's wedding, and I'm very excited to explore India and to visit you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you in India and in New Delhi. So New Delhi is the political capital of India, and it is also a nerve center for all the political activities in India. And since my career journey has mostly been centered in New Delhi, I have seen through the ups and downs that India has seen through all those different prisms. And in New Delhi is a very, very cosmopolitan city. So people from all different parts of the country, they come, and it has different shades, different cultures, and it's a melting pot of all these different. And India is such a diverse country, as you know, that it has just so many regions.
Over 30 regions, isn't it? Different languages.
Yeah, exactly. And New Delhi is the composite culture of all those things mixed together. So it provides you with a lens that you can see all the flavors of India in one place. And then it also has a different layers to it, like a lot of migrant laborers are in India that come from the smaller cities in India. They come to Delhi for their livelihoods. It gives a different kind of contour, different kind of economic structure also to New Delhi.
And how many people would live in Delhi as a whole? Like, I mean, what are we talking in terms of overall population size of the city?
It's a considerable population. It's a very crowded city because of that, yeah.
Because I'm obviously from Australia, as you know, and we have, I think, about 27 million in our country all up. And I think there have been people who have mentioned that, you know, some cities, certainly in China, I know Chongqing exceeds that in its population. But there must be Indian cities as well, which...
Of course.
Yeah.
So we compete China in the population
Yeah.
dynamics.
Oh, that's it, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So, yes.
And so before coming to Oxford and the MPP, you worked at the Ministry of Finance and within the Indian Revenue Service, where you hold a senior role in the Joint Secretary rank. So could you talk a bit about the work you've been doing in your career over the recent sort of 15 years or so, and I guess what a couple of the highlights have been in terms of your career to date?
Well, yeah, I would love to speak about that. I had, as I told, an interesting career journey with lots of different kinds of experiences. I have primarily, my career has been in the area of international taxation. And of late, I was working in the tax policy division, where I was part of the union budget team.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely a very high point in my career and has been a very interesting experience as such.
The union budget is the budget for
the country.
The federal, yeah.
Yeah, so I was part of the union budget team from the tax policy side. And it's a whole different kind of experience, because budget is, it's such a sacrosanct and confidential part of any government procedure. So you have to have a lot of integrity regarding the procedures, and you have to abide by so many rules, and then it is a very time constrained thing that within a given period of time you have to produce a legislative document which is to be passed in the parliament, and then you have to follow all the procedures for getting this bill, this finance bill, passed in both the houses of the parliament. And for as a personal side, it has been a very big, very challenging job for me, because it's like we work for ungodly hours, and
around budget time especially.
Yes, I would be returning home back at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., or maybe sometimes 1 a.m. in the night, 2 a.m. in the night, and we've been working within the confines of our office premises. We are not allowed to move around, and
goodness,
yeah, and it had been a difficult time for my family as well to put up with my schedule, especially my kids would not be seeing me for many days altogether, and for me too, it was like apart from that, it's like it's a high pressure job and a lot of stress. And so balancing everything. And then at the same time, I was writing my Oxford application, as I told you. Yeah. So it was definitely a very challenging thing for me to... I would wake up in the early morning when the whole house is sleeping and write my applications in the piece. And then I would rush to the office and do my budget things. And yeah, it had been a very interesting experience. It would be... I will always remember that as a cherished memory.
Yeah, well, the year in Oxford must have been a welcome break from all that intense work, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
What drove you to get into economic policy in the civil service in the first place? I mean,
I was always... I always wanted to see what best could be done for the redistribution of resources. And as we have a lot of inequality that I can see in my country, and I would always want to do something to contribute in whatever small bit that I can, in getting the things circulated, getting the bridging the divide between haves and have-nots, and that has been primary driver for me to pursue this.
And that socioeconomic divide and, I suppose, inequity is particularly profound in India, isn't it?
It is, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
And as we are economically growing, and at the same time there has been kind of jobless growth, which is being viewed in India, it is something problematic thing which we need to address very strongly and very forcefully. And so all these things brings together to tax policy to find different solutions through incentivizing different sectors through tax policy, and and give an economic support to the people who really need it.
And how much in India, how much kind of leverage does the federal government, so the union budget, have over the entire country, or I suppose, construct of India or modern India? Because there's obviously 30 plus regions which probably have their own budgets and things as well. Is it actually difficult to sort of work across that federal model with the devolved, state or regional jurisdictions too?
Yeah, so we have a centralized union budget, and then we have sharing the sharing of revenue, and each state has their own share of revenue, which is also the part of the budget, and the there is a finance committee which decides like how much share each state is going to have, and then we have consultative procedure with the states and the center, and then we decide on so many different formulas, and that is how like it has been done. Yeah. So basically, it is the central union budget is the key document to see the overall picture how the country is going to work.
It's a huge responsibility for 1.4 billion people. Remarkable stuff. You've also done a lot of work with the OECD two-pillar international tax negotiations for tax sharing in the digitalised and borderless world. It's quite a mouthful for me to get around, let alone conceptually. So maybe in very simple terms, what is that kind of international global economic governance policy work? What does that look like for you? And what does all that mean basically to our listeners?
Well, the current digital economy has posed an enormous challenge on the administrators to see how the tax is going to be, the fair share of taxes that each country is going to get. And a modern economy where the e-commerce is being done through different platforms like eBay, Amazon. They're based somewhere else. The market is somewhere else. The consumers are somewhere else, and producers are. It's a very complex system, and in that complexity, how to navigate your fair share of taxes for the country, it becomes an enormous challenge, and that is what Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 they are targeting to address. And however, it is the negotiations are still on, and I don't know what is going to be the future of it, but the world is coming together to find solutions to this big problem, because so much of tax is being lost, so much of tax revenue is getting lost because of the base erosion and profit shifting that is happening because of so many tax havens, the corporates.
Like British Virgin Islands or the Caymans, or even in Ireland as well, was it the double Dutch ice cream sandwich they used to speak about, I think, where companies would sort of locate themselves or domicile themselves in low tax jurisdictions. And ultimately what happens is that you deny everyday people who are most in need, the ones we talked about in Delhi, for instance, of tax revenue which builds hospitals, schools, roads, bridges, etc., right?
Yeah, so that is the reason why even there's a new thing that is idea which is being floating among people now. Why do they question the taxation system as such? What is the integrity of the taxation system as such when the corporates are evading so much of taxes and the poor salaried people are giving the taxes? People are actually questioning the entire taxation system. Why are we paying taxes at all when there are people who can easily evade it through the tax havens and all? So these are big questions that the world need to come together and resolve and find solutions to.
Stunning stuff, man. It's just remarkable to think that everyday people kind of get squeezed and have trouble paying their own income taxes and all other variety of kinds of imposts, and then you've got major global corporations which seemingly can get away with or paying nothing in Australia or in India, for instance. Coming towards the Master of Public Policy, and your decision to come here to Oxford University for a year. So we're at the end of our time here at the MPP, sadly. I can't even say we're approaching the end. We're basically at the end. It's the middle of August. And
very sad.
Yeah, we're nearly finished with our summer projects. We've been here for about 11 years. 11 months. Goodness, I'm going to edit that out.
I wish.
It's like some DPhil PhD students, maybe. So it's remarkable how quickly time flies here when you're,
the good time flies very quickly.
Exactly, when you're having fun and with wonderful people as well. So I suppose looking back, when you were doing your application in the early hours of the morning, as you said, all those years ago before coming here, what drove you to apply to the degree here?
Well, it happened during the COVID pandemic time when a bunch of officers, including me, we tried to create a platform, a COVID help desk kind of thing for the people of our department, where we can provide the necessary support in terms of medical consultation or medicines or oxygen suppliers and ventilators and so many different things. So we were working on that, and at that time we were all in the lockdown. We didn't have too much of work as such as work in the office. So that was a time when I had ample time to think about myself and how this volunteer work that I'm doing can. It actually kind of motivated me to upgrade my own skills and expand my own my own self as a person, And I thought education can be a better education can be a good opportunity to expand and build up on my own personal skills. And also, since it was a time that we were all, the world was at a standstill, and everybody was introspecting themselves.
It's sort of mid-2020 when lockdowns were still happening and we were not sure about the pathway out of this pandemic.
Yeah. So that I had a lot of introspection, and it was an outcome of this introspection and all that. I've thought that let me challenge myself with this education and let me push my frontiers little forward to go ahead with a prestigious place like Oxford.
Yes.
So that was the motivation behind, and here I am now.
Remarkable. I love thinking, we've been here with 150 other students for nearly a year now, and it's always remarkable to think about the journeys that they all had and all the individual decision points that they took and the impactful moments in their own lives, which, drove them to actually write up all the papers, the personal statements, the essays, the references and things, and then actually lodge that application. We're all kind of like, walking down essentially 150 different paths, and then we all converge in the one place. It's quite a remarkable thing. So thank you for sharing that. Looking back on the degree, how did you find the MPP overall, and what were some of your favourite memories and highlights, maybe wonderful lectures you attended or the people as well?
Well, I can speak and speak and speak about this. MPP had been incredible. Like, I had not imagined it to be like this, and I had some conception of it, but it came out to be much more than that. And first and most remarkable thing about MPP is the cohorts. My cohorts, each and every one is so special, and they are a treasure trove in themselves. Talking to each one of them is so enriching, and you learn so much from them. It's so interesting, and they come all of them come from different countries, different backgrounds, and suddenly the world shrinking for you. The person sitting in Chile, I would never have imagined somebody coming from Chile and talking to me, and
a beautiful image, the world shrinking to Lecture Theatre 1 or
Yes.
Nina Mori Forum, yes.
Yes.
Talking to Chileans like Ben Katz. And
Exactly. And you read about Marquez, and you've been imagining Colombia, and there are Colombians sitting
Yes.
in front
Maria
of
Emilia,
you.
Carlos,
Yeah, you can
Jose,
talk to them.
And about Marquez as well.
Yeah, I've got Marquez, of course. So yeah, it's just incredible to see. I mean, now I can really say that I can go around in any part of the world and knock a door, and there is one door that is open for me across the world.
That's stunning.
Yeah.
And some favorite maybe lecturers as well you have? You know?
Yeah. So I would never able to get over Joe's lecture, the philosophy professor,
Professor
and
Joe Wolf.
Professor Joe Wolf, yeah. So I mean, his lectures were like music to ears. No wonder he's the president of Royal Society of Philosophy.
Yes. Well, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? It's sort of, as a philosopher, you probably,
Yeah, I mean,
you've made it.
Yeah, I mean, and this was my first exposure to philosophy as a discipline.
Okay.
So, and coming straight from Joe was, I mean, I cannot be more fortunate. And
did it illuminate some of those things you saw in India with regard to socioeconomic reform, tax policy, and the COVID experience? Like you think about utilitarianism and, I don't know, equality and things like that?
Yeah, certainly. Like I can now dissect all these policies from a philosophical prism, which I would have never done earlier. He has given us with so many philosophical tools to navigate your own consciousness, while you are framing some policy decision, and it is actually remarkable. Like I can see that how I view democracy as such, and what different narratives and versions of democracy that are now I have read through Joe's lectures, and I can reimagine a different kind of democracy now. And he's doing that work, I think, democracy for the future world,
He is,
How is the democracy as such is going to take a new version because of the political developments in the current modern world.
Also looking at cities and equity and community as well. Remarkable kind of framing of, I suppose, how we all live together and live happy and prosperous and healthy lives.
Yeah.
You mentioned as well about the people, are there any one or two memories maybe that stand out of people you've met who've been particularly, impactful or memorable in terms of, you go and have a coffee with them or something and you learn about all the remarkable things they've done?
So, as I told, there's so much of variation, so much of range in our MPPs. People, I mean, our cohorts coming just fresh undergrads and people with so much of experience like me and others. So I would recall my coffee on with Jackie, our cohort
Jackie
from
Cohen,
US, and the way she has worked against the gun violence in US, the activism that she has, the bravery, the kind of enthusiasm, the steps that she had taken, and the way she has stood for that, and it's remarkable to see from. I mean, it's very inspiring.
It is.
Yeah.
And you've come to the school as an experienced professional with substantial work experience, very senior role in government, and then someone like Jackie's in her early 20s. Has just finished university as well, but it's such a beautiful mix when you've got this kind of like, I'm in my early 30s, for instance, like, you've got all people at different stages of their careers and personal journeys, and it all sort of, comes together in a beautiful synergy. But could you sort of reflect on how you found the degree coming here as someone who's had substantial work experience and some things that, how have you found your journey?
Well, despite having a long career journey, there have been so many things that I have learned from here, and there have been so many dimensions to my personality now that I can add to because of my whole MPP course. It has offered me so many new insights about how the world is functioning. For instance, this carbon driven economy. The modern economy or the future economy is going to be driven by carbon content of each product. That is something I was not even thinking about back in India. It is something illuminating for me. The reason why I have chosen that to pursue in my summer project about environmental taxes and all that I'm working on now. So yeah, it has the MPP has given me this amazing kind of array, this array of new exposures and new topics to build on and to see things from different perspectives. Of course, I was carrying some perspective, some worldview of myself, but after coming here and listening to so many wonderful lectures and lecturers, knowing through their thought process, navigating through their ways, it has added so much of value to my
been
experience.
Quite mind expanding, I suppose,
Yes.
or kaleidoscopic in a way. You come here and you expand the horizons of, I suppose, your thinking about policy, politics, philosophy. The different people you meet, a sense of what's possible, right?
Yeah.
So, like maybe it's activism or something that you are more aware of, or I don't know.
The political activists that we have, so many of them, and they have all been working in different fields. Like, for example, Mariana, she's working for the Mexican. There's so much of female homicide in Mexico. I mean, you're learning so many things from all of our colleagues, and Prakriti doing political activism in Nepal. The political literacy that is so much important for today's, for the developing world females, how much important it is to know what, why you should be interested in politics. You should be aware. That is something that is so empowering, So all these things,
It's an intellectual feast. And, but, you've done the degree, obviously, and now you're in your summer project, but you've also balanced being a parent throughout your time while studying here. Could you and there's actually quite a large and wonderful community of parents here who are also studying, and some of them have got their families here in Oxford. Others are sort of doing it remote or long distance parenting. How have you found those sort of dual responsibilities as being a parent while also studying?
Well, I owe it to my family that they have let me come here, and they have given me that freedom, that space to pursue my dreams. I heartily thank my kids and my husband and my parents who have been a big support to me, without which I wouldn't ever have been able to come here and do. And being here, half of my heart is always there with my kids back in India. Half of my mind is there all the time. So it is very challenging. Emotionally, it is very challenging to be here all alone without the family. And at the same time, you're, that they have their studies, they have their this, and they have their small needs. So I keep on, talking to them and doing my part as much as possible. There's so many things. Sometimes my daughter would need some assistance in studies, so I would do a video call to her and I would just explain those concepts or those things to her. There's the small things. Yeah. Sometimes she would just say, my shampoo is finished, Mama. Can you order that? So I have to find time to do all those small things. So that is how I'm balancing life here.
And your kids and husband actually came over here as well, right?
Yes.
To Oxford for about a month, and you did a lot of travel as well. I mean, I was lucky enough to meet Shakya at a dinner at Christchurch. And,
That was a beautiful time we had together. Yeah. My kids were, my family was here, and we went to Spain. We went to Barcelona and Sevilla and had a lovely time there. And then I was very happy that they were here while the term time was there, so they could firsthand experience how their mother is taking part in lectures and participating in different events.
Like
And
the
then
cultural night.
cultural night
Shakya danced,
yeah. So it was a very opportune time for her to present her skill, and we danced together also. That
Very
was
impressive.
incredible. Yeah.
Did it inspire your kids to want to follow in mum's footsteps
Oh
and
yes,
come
oh
maybe
yes.
to Oxford or
Oh,
overseas?
yeah. They are very inspired, and particularly like they love the beautiful libraries that we study in. It's so fancy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a fairy tale, isn't it?
It's a fairy tale, yes.
So coming back to your summer project, which is what you're currently working on now, and you mentioned it before, but you worked in tax and economic policy for a long time, and you saw the MPP and its capstone summer project, which is where you spend sort of 2 months working on a policy issue within an organisation, whether it's in the private sector, an NGO or government or some sort of think tank or whatever it might be, and produce a report for them and also the school. But you really wanted to do something different in your summer project compared to what you'd done traditionally in tax and economic policy. So you're now looking at Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism Regulation, CBAM, at the Commonwealth Secretariat in London and Geneva. Could you tell us a bit about that work?
Well, as I told earlier, I was fascinated with this new buzzword of carbon-driven economy, and what I read with the preliminary studies that I did over this carbon border adjustment mechanism. I was a little intrigued about what implication it is going to create on the developing world, and particularly for my country. What I'm finding is that there's a lot of controversy over the countries like EU and UK are coming up with their carbon border adjustment mechanisms, where they have where there's differentiation in the prices, carbon prices, and the developed world has a carbon price put on their producers, while the developing worlds are still grappling with how to actually price their carbon. And there is so much of disparity now that the coming up of UK and EU CBAM, there's going to be a huge impact on the trade of these developing countries. So I'm working on
because they can't meet those carbon sort of accounting
we do not
standards
have a carbon pricing mechanism as yet in most of the developing countries, and it's carbon intensive industries. Actually, most of the developing countries are having carbon intensive industries, and they are into this carbon intensive industry. The producers are mostly into this, and we are heavily dependent on the export to the developed world of these carbon intensive industries products, especially like India is a leading exporter of most of the in-scope CBAM products to UK and as well as EU. So it has a huge dependence on these exports. And we need time to transition, we talk about just transition. And so there are a lot of question marks on the implications that the CBAM is going to have. And the world has to come together, the global south. I don't want to use the word global south and north, but the different levels of economies that different parts of the world has, they have to come together. And WTO, because WTO has a very crucial role in aligning all these efforts together to find consensual cooperative solutions to these trade disputes that are going to happen because of CBAM. And traditionally,
a merger of economic and environmental standards through global economic governance.
So when the WTO was formed, like in, I think, 1947 and around that period, then whatever rules that were drawn at that time, they're not compatible with the current environmental laws needs. They have to be aligned with that. It is need to be then they need to have a sustainable trade regime now, and WTO has to play a very crucial role, and that's why it needs to reincarnate itself, redesign itself, its rules to be more aligned with the environmental needs, actually.
And where does the Commonwealth Secretariat come into this picture, and how did you secure a role there?
Well, Commonwealth comes as a natural decision, natural choice, because it is a congregation of 56 countries. Most of them are from the developing world, and India is a part of it. And they were all. It gave me a platform to pursue the topic or pursue the subject on which I want to work. So that's how I get associated with them, and fortunately they have asked me to produce a paper on that. So.
Brilliant. And you're going to London a couple of times a week to Marlborough Palace?
Marlborough House, yeah.
Goodness, which is actually an old palace.
It was an old palace, yeah. It's an interesting thing to work, sit in the palace and work. Beautiful rooms around, and beautiful tapestry, wall-to-wall paintings of a palace, and
like
and
an
navigate.
episode of The Crown or something, yeah. Yeah. Well, and what are you doing in Geneva? So you're actually going there to do... You're with the Trade and Ocean Division, isn't it, or something? Is that it?
Trade and Ocean Division at the Commonwealth Secretariat. At Geneva, I'll be working with the Permanent Mission of India to WTO, actually. And so WTO, as I told you, it has such a crucial role, and it was the subject that I wanted to pursue. So I really look forward to be there and learn a lot from them, what is happening there, to be meeting people there. And we have like professors here who have a good network there, so they have connected me there.
So brush up on your French as well. So good.
Perhaps, and eat a lot of Swiss chocolates.
Delicious, very good. Well, you spoke also earlier, and I suppose over the last couple of weeks when we've been catching up around Oxford, about the UK's influence on Indian public service, and I suppose the bureaucracy as well. But having now worked inside the UK bureaucracy in the Commonwealth Secretariat and in London, what are some of the differences and similarities you've noticed, and what might you like to sort of take back to the Indian public service as well when you go back to your role?
Well, that's a very interesting question, actually. India has borrowed its bureaucratic structure, and a lot of structures of all the institutions and organizations that we have been borrowed from the British institutions only, and we follow their legacy, actually. And the imperial civil services at the colonial time has been transformed into the current Indian civil services. And after working here at the Commonwealth Secretariat and the UK CBAM, when I have started going deeper into the ways and procedures that the UK government takes for their policy making, and what kind of steps and what kind of research that they do particularly, I was greatly impressed and impressed with the way the deep researches that they have done on each and every aspect of I was going through the trade documents of UK, and for every single country of the world they have a huge document. For every country they have a very consolidated, very comprehensive document. Something that is worthwhile taking back home, actually. And I would want my own country policies to be made with that in-depth research.
Robustness as well.
Yes, robustness, yes.
Yeah.
It adds so much of value. It adds so much of strength to the policies that we are making.
Yeah, I think there's probably also value in having a broader international network as well as a policymaker and a civil servant back home, because now you can swap ideas with people here in the UK and pick up the phone to someone in Geneva or the WTO as well. I mean, that's a huge dividend to be taking away from your time here.
Absolutely. That's what I'm looking forward to, working on that. And harnessing the potential that I have achieved here.
Stunning, yeah.
Yeah.
At a broader level, this whole question of the relationship between the UK and India is quite a, it's historical. It's laden with the historical kind of weight and even trauma because of the legacy of colonialism. So the other day we were at a college for our friend's birthday, at Mansfield College, and we're looking at the big beautiful buildings as well. And you mentioned that there was a city in India which had a similar kind of almost English style of architecture, right? So there's the lingering kind of architectural influence in India as well. But how have you sort of felt, being here in Oxford in England, and in a way it's sort of like at the heart of the colonial project? Does that sort of, and you and your other Indian colleagues as well, does that sort of bring up, I don't know, questions which you grapple with in terms of the legacy, the historical legacies and things?
Oh, well, yes. The British colonialism had a very deep impact in India. Every other architecture, every other city has some or other footprints or some other imprints of British architecture, British style of. We have imbibed British style of living in so many of our own culture now, so many words in language, so many food habits, so many things, the English tea, there's so many things that is so much part of Indian ethos, and especially literature and the education system, especially. Like I have read As You Like It and the Shakespearean play, the As You Like It, Twelfth Night in my high school, in my secondary, and after coming here, I am seeing that, watching them in the play being played at the town hall in Oxford. So it's a remarkable experience for me, and it's like a continuum that I can see. I'm carrying all those visions. I was carrying those visions from afar
because you grow up reading, and it's become part of your your intellectual landscape, right? Or hinterland.
Yeah, true. And after coming here, I'm seeing things from close quarters. I can. It's very different experience, like reading Jane Austen, sitting at my room in India, and coming here and being in the place where she actually wrote it.
Yeah.
Or Aldous Huxley. I've been grown up, my father talking about Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and seeing him, studying at the Balliol College here. So it's
Evelyn Waugh, I think, was at one of the colleges on Turl Street, or Tolkien as well. Lord of the Rings used to, him and the Inklings, I think, like C.S. Lewis and things, used to drink at the Eagle and Child.
Yes.
Go and pray at the Oratory, which is just around the corner from where we are here at the Blavatnik School of Government.
Yeah.
How is obviously independence was in 1947 in India from England after World War II, etc. Like, how are modern kind of relations between England and in India today, and how is that colonial legacy remembered? Because it's so profoundly shaped Indian society, but also India has profoundly shaped English society too, or Britain,
True.
So
it has been a mutual exchange of culture that I can clearly see a lot of significant Indian influence in places like London. Especially, we have developed all new cuisine, like British Indian food, which is like butter chicken, and all these are like typically British Indian. It has become a national food of Britain. So these things are there, and the kind of legacy that we carry from the British Association, and we have so much of fusion of literature. We have so much of fusion of culture in so many ways.
Language.
So English has become almost a first language of our country. Like most of the younger generations almost all are English reading in English. Yeah, so it has, and it has also helped India to leverage on its own potential, because being having a good command over English, that gives an edge to the Indians to proclaim their identity and have a good set of jobs. And
because the diaspora is so huge, you can go and work in North America or Australia or England itself.
It definitely gives us an edge over many other country people. And in fact, I've met many people. One of our Mongolian colleagues was telling me that I wished we had a British colonialism history so that we could be because there are few countries like Japanese people. They always feel that they could have a better English command. It is a practical thing, but it is true. It's like, I think it is a good thing for India.
So we're coming to the end of the interview now. You mentioned some literature before, so Huxley, Jane Austen, Shakespeare, etc. We sort of bonded over talking about favourite books and literature and things we're reading as well. So what have you been reading recently? And I suppose, just to wrap up the interview, do you have a kind of a feeling of what your literary experience of UK life has been like? If there's something that particularly relates to you in a I don't know, a poem or a book that you think of when you think of England?
I think I have grown up reading Pride and Prejudice from Jane Austen, Oscar Wilde, Shakespeare. All of them have shaped my own literary worldview, Then Keats, the Shelley, and the modern authors like modern Indian authors like Amitav Ghosh. He's studied from Oxford, and he's one of my favorite writers from India. So all these literary journey that I had, and I'm seeing them culminating in here in
Beautiful.
Oxford. Yeah, so it's a fascinating experience altogether.
And you're reading a book on Oppenheimer at the moment.
Oh, yes.
That right? Yeah.
That is amazing. It's a beautiful biography which is written, and the movie, of course, was an amazing movie. And stepping into the shoes of a physicist, and who also had such an eclectic reading habit. He was a great admirer of different literary. He has read Dostoevsky so much, the Russian author. Then he also mastered Sanskrit.
Really?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course, when he has
read
quoted the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, he's read Bhagavad Gita, and he actually was very influenced by the philosophy, the Hindu philosophy, the philosophy that has been propounded in Gita.
Extraordinary.
Yeah. So one particular thing that he writes about is that discipline is very liberating for him. He was a very hardworking, very workaholic, and that's what he wrote, that from the Indian philosophy he could learn to admire, or he could learn to accept that discipline is a very liberating thing. It liberates the soul. It liberates the spirit. That's what I mean. So I'm happy to read like the influence that Indian philosophy can have on a Western physicist.
Stunning. Well, we're coming to the end of the interview now, and I just wonder whether you have any final words of advice for people thinking about applying for the MPP to go on this big journey that you yourself have been on, and whether you've got any kind of parting words of wisdom or.
Well, one last word I would definitely like to say: always question the status quo. Always question what is there and how you can, what contribution that you can make in improvising or improving it for the betterment of the world. And this has been my mantra wherever I have worked in, wherever I have served in different parts of the government. So this is one thing that I have always endeavored in my own career journey to do. Like wherever I have been posted in my career journey, I have tried to bring things into a better shape, to push yourself a little ahead, a little more, so that you have a better world to live in. So that's what the motto of our own NPP is.
Better served, better
Yes.
governed, and better led.
Yeah, better led.
I got it right.
Yeah, so let's,
Good, wonderful, Gargi. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been absolutely stunning talking to you, as always. And thank you for your friendship over the year. I look forward to keeping in touch and learning from you and well into the future. So thank you very
It's
much.
likewise, Nick. I'm fortunate to have a friend like you, and I really, really look forward to stay in touch and learn more and more from you. And thank you so much for having me here. It's pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, Gargi.